Archbishop Wester, thank you for joining us on New Mexico in Focus.
Oh, it's an honor to be with you, Megan. Thanks for inviting me.
In your pastoral letter, Living in the Light of Christ's Peace, a conversation towards nuclear disarmament, you talk about growing up as part of the generation doing nuclear drills by hiding under your desk during the Cuban Missile Crisis. But it was a visit to Japan in September 2017 that really changed your point of view on nuclear weapons. Why?
Well, the two bishops and I went on a little vacation. And part of that was to visit Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And it was really sobering, and it took us out of the vacation mode and put us into more of a reflective mode, just looking at the museums, the art, all the different ways that the atomic bombs, the effect that they had in Japan, the pictures of people suffering after the attack. And it was just so horrific, and especially with the children. I mean, the whole thing was difficult, but I read that the children saw the bright light and they ran to the window to see what the light was, and I can only imagine what happened either then or shortly after with the exposure to the radiation. So, and then coming back to Santa Fe and taking friends, through the museums and all that, and seeing, well, here's where those very bombs were built and manufactured and sent off to Japan. So it just really, I think it touched me very deeply. And so here, I felt that we should be, as an archdiocese and the Catholic Archdiocese of Santa Fe, we should be part of this conversation that would lead toward non-proliferation and nuclear disarmament.
How did this trip, this realization, affect your view of New Mexico's very large role in the creation of nuclear weapons and the state's ongoing role in this industry through our national laboratories and other things?
Well, it's a good question, Megan. It's a complicated question in my mind. I mean, I think obviously on one level, I'm very proud of our laboratories, LANL and Sandia. I think these are wonderful scientists who are committed to science, committed to the country and doing, good things. I think so from that point of view, I respect what they do. And I think they do a lot of things and can do a lot, even more things, that really build up life and help our planet and our human beings. But on the other hand, these are weapons of war, and that's not their fault. Human beings have been at war with each other since, time immemorial. So I think it's up to all of us, citizens of the world to speak to this, so it's not I'm on the one hand, I'm proud of the place that New Mexico has in terms of helping our country, out, but we need to go beyond that, and we need to use this technology, this scientific know-how to get beyond nuclear wars, because what we've created is something that changes the entire dynamic, of war. It's just completely it's a paradigmatic shift. And so we have to take a second look at, the just war theory and what constitutes a just war and all that. It's changed now with atomic weapons.
And the just war theory, if you could remind our viewers and listeners, this was a doctrine developed by the church?
Yes, this was St. Augustine is famous for it many centuries ago, the just war theory, that he looks at, it has to be an appropriate response. It has to be something that protects innocent civilians, et cetera. The motivation has to be looked at. It has to have a reasonable chance of success. He has a series of criteria that have to be met for it to be a just war. But in with atomic weapons, as you can imagine, all those criteria seem to get, no pun intended, blown up, because that's, how do you prevent innocent people, non-combatants, from being killed in an atomic attack?
Many of the scientists in the Manhattan Project were focused on creating the first bomb before Nazi Germany created it. And some even had fled Nazi Germany. And I bring that up because today there are people working in the national laboratories who may have a similar sense of mission by protecting the nuclear arsenal. What would you say to them?
Well, I would say that the nuclear arsenal it's a false sense of protection. It's a false sense of security. I know that, we all feel it. We watch, Rambo-like movies and the powerful United States, but it's a false sense, because it's not protecting us. As a matter of fact, it's probably our greatest threat, I would say, in the world today. We talk about Pope Francis talks about Mother Earth, our common home, and climate change, and doing what we can to help the Earth. Well, here's a huge threat, that if this ever was unleashed, that it would be catastrophic. So I don't think that it is by modernizing our weapons, by continuing to develop them, we're not protecting anybody. That's just not true. The real protection of humanity, of the globe, of the world, would be for us to come together and to use diplomacy, to talk with one another, and to work out our differences that way, and to get rid of nuclear arms. I'm not naive. I realize that a lot of these countries are not going to just go, "Oh, okay, well, what a fine idea you have, Mr. President. Well, let's all do that." It's going to be difficult, and we hope we can avoid even war with conventional armaments. But the point is that, I compare it in my own mind, even to the argument we talk about with guns. If you've got one of those automatic weapons, you can kill a lot of people in a very short time. If I have a knife, I might kill somebody, but it's going to be limited, So both are bad. We want to get rid of all instruments of destruction and weapons like that, but in the sense to be used for war. But I think in this case, we need to get rid of nuclear armaments because they're so destructive.
And you say in your pastoral letter that, and you've been saying in our conversation, you want to start a statewide dialogue around these issues. How do you see these proceeding? What will they look like?
I would like to see our parishes, for example, and their peace and justice commissions and committees, maybe take this up as a topic, and I'd like to see us, writing to our elected officials to, express our concern about this issue. I think, people can certainly, there's a lot written about it. People can educate themselves about the matter instead of just accepting what we hear, but to really go into it and investigate it and read about it. We put in the letters a lot of practical things that people can do, enabled to kind of further the conversation. I think that the more we think about it, pray about it, read about it, then we'll be able to kind of converse with others and to really talk about it.
Well, Archbishop Wester, I appreciate you taking time to talk with us.
Well, thank you, Megan.